Hello everyone. If you like recycling clothing and you want to give a new fresh life to a old garment that you don't want to throw away, you're in the correct place, because I'm going to demonstrate how one old pair of jeans can become a new interesting personalized skirt. Before you even touch the pants, you would like to sketch a design that you want to come up with. So then you exactly understand where you cut and how you cut it. Because after you cut it, obviously you're not going to be able to recut it or whatever. It is what it is. So here is my sketch. I have this pair of jeans that you are going to see in a second that I decided to cut in the diagonal direction, asymmetrical design. On the short side, it has 16 inches. I identified that. On the long side, it measures, let's say, 22 inches. And then I am going to undo the pants inseam, and this is the crotch extension that is going to look like this when I take it out. I will show that to you in a second. And then I am going to come up with a pocket that is looking like this. It's an oval shape that I'm going to quilt, and most probably I'm going to fold the pocket opening to go and fold on top of the quilted piece. In my sketch it looks a little bit different than it's going to look on my pants, but it is what it is. At the back, again, the crotch extension is undone and put on top of it and sewn. At the bottom hemline, I'm thinking maybe I will put a single stitch and undo the threads to create a fringe look. And as you can see here, I inserted a godet out of the leftover leg fabric that I'm going to have. The same thing is happening at the back. So this is my idea. What am I going to do? And I have to have a clear idea where I'm heading to, so I can actually create something. I'm going to work on two pair of pants to show you the different steps. So on my sketch, you remember seeing 16 inches. I will mark 16 inches right here, either with a chalk or with a piece of soap or with a pencil. Okay, so here's my 16 inches. And then on the opposite side, I was going to leave 22 inches. So that's about below the knee. Okay, so I would put my pants flat like that next to each other, and I'm going to mark those lengths. And let's say I would cut like this. Obviously you can cut any way you want to. You can cut V shape, you can cut any shape you want to. So then I'm going to be drafting my lines, and I'm going to cutting my pants right here. So the legs are going to be used for my godets, for my other pockets that I'm planning to make. And what I need to do is, starting from this point on, I have to undo the seam, and I have to undo the crotch seam up to the point where the line becomes straight, because the crotch line is straight then curvy. So I'm opening the seam up until, say, below the fly of the pants, and then the back the same way. Okay, so I prepared this pair of jeans where I did exactly what I said I was going to do. You see at the front, I opened my crotch extension. Actually, the difference between the skirts and pants is this extra measurement that we add to come up with pants. Meaning this extension that is called crotch extension is going to bend and cover inside of the leg. And those crotch extensions, for instance, the front one is much smaller than the back one for a known reason. Okay, you see how big the crotch extension is for the back? And I am going to open the seams with my seam ripper carefully. If I cut, I can kind of like patch it up or whatever, but try not to cut. You see, I just like with my seam ripper, I just open up my seam to the point where my seam becomes already straight. You see, this is straight, then curvy. You can clearly see. So you have to open up that much, so then you can see what you're coming up with. Now, Once I open up actually the inseam and then the crotch seams, now pretty much I have a fabric or a garment that can easily become a skirt. I just have to deal with these extensions. Here, at the front, for instance, I am going to bring this as one side of the extension under, and the other one that was on top already will go on top. Let's say if I would put this flat and relaxed on top of the front, I am going to be pinning this in place, just like this. So I am planning to stitch over this stitch and close it. So I'm going to have this crotch extension design on my skirt. If you don't like that look, you can simply cut this straight and connect it with the other side and come up with a seam at the front. That's what you can do. I'm using this to come up with a new design on my skirt. At the back, it is going to be more visible because the crotch extension is very big. Again, the under piece goes on the under and the top piece goes right on top. And I'm trying to make this as flat as it will go without creating any puckers, because that's the way the skirt is. Okay, then I'm going to pin this into place like this. Go underneath the pants and pin the opposite side of the crotch extension in place also, so you can stitch later on. It is going to be like this. So this is one of my leftover legs. Whichever side you want to save, then cut the opposite side, inseam or outseam, in other words. That's how we call them. And then you have a fabric that you can use for whatever purpose you want to. Okay, I want to cut 2 godets, one for the front and one for the back. Okay, here at the center you can see that there's this flowy kind of piece, triangular piece that is inserted into that opening. That is called godet. So the godet is a piece like that usually they cut. Usually it has triangular shape, sometimes different shapes, and it's inserted into the fabric, into the middle of the fabric, which makes the bottom of the garment more flowy and it increases the hem sweep. That's what we're doing with our skirt. How do I cut the godet that is appropriate for this opening? This is my front. As you can see, the opening is fairly small. It is about 3 inches opening. So if I cut 6 inches wide, I already will have kind of flowy piece in there. I have prepared a godet piece in advance to save time. At the base, my godet measures about 3.5, so I am going to have fairly big flowy hemline, and I'm going to use all the width of the fabric. So let's draft it from the other side one more time. This is my godet at the base, and how long is my godet? It is going to be about 9 inches on the long side, 8 inches over the short side. So I'm going to keep it like that. I'm cutting about 11 inches. It's a little bit long because the tip of the godet is going to go a little bit above the opening with the seam allowance included. So I draft like this, and I'm going to cut. Later on I will eliminate for the short side. Okay, so I open up the seam allowance and pin it with my godet's one leg. And please note that my fabrics are touching each other on the right side, face to face, and this is going to be stitched first like this, and then it is going to go also and connect with the opposite side. See? Okay, let's go inside of it. If I'm stitching this from the wrong side, it is going to come and stop, let's say right there, and then I am going to bring my opposite side and pin it to make sure that I connect it correctly. You can either top stitch it or you can stitch it from inside. It's up to you. Okay, I stitched the underside of the godet and I'm trying to relax the upper side. It's better to stitch this side first so you can understand exactly where is it going to stop. The godet tip, I mean. It is going to stop right here, so we know. Okay, so let's go under and stitch the other side also. Or like say if I want to the other side, I can just simply top stitch it with the opened extension of the crotch. As you can see, I'm going to employ two spools of threads to sew, because on these jeans the threads are more distinctive and thick, so I am using two threads to get that bold line, and you can do that also. Thread whichever way you want to on your own machine. Find a way to incorporate two threads. They're going to be threaded together and you are going to pass through the needle opening together at the same time, and it will give you more distinctive stitch. Just cut. You see here the difference between a single thread and double thread stitches, and in order for me to kind of mimic jeans stitching, I can even make my stitch length a little bit longer. For instance, instead of putting on number 2, I'm putting it on number 3, and with double thread I will get kind of like very similar stitch on my fabric. So here's what I came up with. If you want a bigger godet, take a bigger part of the leg fabric and use it here. Do the same steps for the back. But when we look at the back, you see the opening of the extension and inseam are a little bit different. You get bigger triangular shape. Measure this shape plus something and then you can stitch a piece in here. But you are doing the same steps like you did for the front. I'm changing the shape of the extension a little bit, so my godet is not very short. And you can do whatever you want to with yours.
It's okay if it ends up on a seam?
The seam is going to stay in the middle. The seam is going to become part of my decoration here. Okay, I want to put this godet in a way that this middle seam runs right in the middle of the godet. So I'm figuring out how to put this piece in there so design-wise it will come up just the way I want to. This is going to be like this. That means I'm going to be stitching this all the way to this point, which means I'm going to eliminate some of the godet on this part, or I can shift it like this. So then I am going to place face to face again. You see here I shaved my crotch extension a little bit on both sides so I can use this pretty stitch right in the middle of my godet. So I designed my crotch extensions according to my godet instead of designing my godet according to my crotch extension. That's your choice also. Now that I have decided how am I going to stitch my godet, now I am stitching the bottom part first and then top part on top of it. Now it's time to stitch the top one. always double check the bottom so you're not grabbing anything that you are not supposed to. Okay, here you can see the front godet and the back godet here. Of course, after I press it, it's going to look much better. But now, right now, I am doing like overlocking the seam allowances, or you can zigzag it if you want to. Okay, the other side of the crotch extension is still sitting there loose. I'm going to stitch this into place. Can you see you can put this part on the table and fill the other side of the seam allowance and chalk mark it so you can stitch it, or you can simply fill with your fingers and stitch it just the way I'm doing right now. In order for you to see different variations of doing this, let's say in the back I didn't want to come up with that diamond shade top stitching, I simply shaved off my fabric, and all I am going to do is just overstitch this stitch into place, so I'm not going to have that diamond shape at the back, for variety. Okay, so I came up with this shape, kind of like funny shape, but I will decide how to deal with this later on, how to cut this off and to come up with a common hemline, and the front is going to look like this. Now I am going to work on this little applique / pocket. It can be an applique and can have any shape. You can come up with a nice beautiful something from internet, like a nice sketch. You can copy it on a piece of paper and then copy on the fabric and actually stitch it with your small zigzag or a single stitch and undo the edge, fray the edges. I decided to create this pocket out of 2 layers of the denim fabric, and I'm going to stitch it with a quilt stitch, put it together, and then leave the edges open and fray the fabrics on the edges. Let's see how that will go. The dimension of the piece is 6 inches over 5 inches. So I can take another piece of paper. By the way, I'm recycling my papers also. So then I would go straight line, measure 6 inches. Let's say if I did oval shape, choose any shape that you like to. 2.5 inches because the total is going to be 5 inches. Then you are going to use a straight ruler first to come up with a straight line right here and at the bottom, and then with your French curve you can come up with a curve, or whichever curve you have. So whichever size shape you want and size you want. So after that I came up with this pattern that I already placed on a piece of leg fabric that I folded face to face and put my pattern on top of it and pinned it and actually traced the pattern under. Now here on my pattern you can see that 6 inches over 5 is there, also 1/4 inch extra. So I'm going to use seam allowance, and then I'm going to fray that part of the fabric. Let's cut this. Let's say that's my design. I'm going to place my fabrics like this, so the other right side becomes inside of my pocket, or my pocket lining, if you will. And let's pin this together. Okay, let's say you can use whatever color of thread you want to, and you can design any way you choose, with geometrical or floral designs, if that's what you want. So my pocket came out like this, and I'm going to distress the edges further, and I'm going to stitch this in the place for like a little pocket, kind of for a telephone or something. And I'm going to stitch now. As you noticed, I stitched already in there. Either I can fold it back, or I can put another little button in there if I want to, or I can simply just stitch it. It will stay like that. And I'm going to stitch this 1/4 inch away from the edge to be my pocket, my applique, or whatever you want to call. There, that could be your telephone pocket. Let's even up the hemlines. Okay, right now, after stitching 1/4 inch away from the edge, I started fraying the edges. So my stitch is a decoration, also a stopper for fraying to go even further. Later on, when you wash it, it's gonna fray more. But right now, can you see, because this is a twill weave, it gets frayed in different ways. Some places I get pretty like sticking out threads, in some places I don't, which doesn't matter. I'm simply trying to distract the edges of the garment to go with my pocket. Okay, so I decided to use some contrast color, visible color, for my decoration here, as even basting stitch that is applied also at the hemline. And pretty much that gives you an idea that you can use any embroidery or any piece of fabric for applique you want to personalize your own skirt. Hopefully this demonstration gave you enough ideas how to change your pants into a skirt. It doesn't have to be denim pants. They can be slacks or any other pants that you want to make into skirts. As always, if you liked my demonstration, please push the like button, subscribe for my videos, or share it with your friends. See you next time. This is Sofi Kaczmanian for you.